Well, hi everyone. I'm Nick.
Hi, Nick.
And I am a recovering perfectionist. So maybe you're like me and you have perfectionist tendencies. I tend to want to do everything to the best of my abilities with high excellence because quality is really important to me. And I think in a lot of ways, it's a strength. There are things in my life, in my business, where like that's the core of what I offer a lot of my clients on the video side is extremely high quality, and it can be an asset there. But like any strength, if gone too far or you can hide behind it, it becomes a weakness, and it can get in the way of getting things done, of launching, of just putting things out there. So if you're like me and you struggle with perfectionism or just trying to wait till everything's perfect before you make a move, then this episode is probably for you.
I thought that was good.
That wasn't good enough. Let's do it again.
Stop. You need to leave that in there now. We should leave that in there. Totally. That should be like the buffer into the conversation. I'm actually really excited about this conversation because I would say that I am like the opposite of perfectionist, and that can be messy too, and that can be problematic. And I think one of the key things in trying to decide where you're at on that spectrum, Nikki used the term, there's like a spectrum for perfectionism, is just awareness, like becoming aware of our own tendencies. I mean, we've talked a lot about this, our habits, our thought lives, our fears. Like fear is very much a root cause of perfectionism, but also this clarity. And like, because like we're talking even with your lights, you're like, are my lights, they're good enough? And I was like, I think they look perfect. So even just like in a silly instance, like I think something looks perfect, but you're like, they're like 8%, right? Like, so kind of helping shift our focus and having just a clear vision of what looks perfect. What is like, what's the standard? Whose rules are we playing by? When is it time to lean into that excellence, that level, that high quality level of excellence? And when is it time to let go? How do we know like if we're being held back by our fear of failure? Because if it's not going to be perfect, I don't want to do it. Well, you can't get even close to perfect, which I am along the thought theory that perfectionism is not real. Like Jesus was perfect and that was it. Like I just don't think it exists. But even in your mind, like what is perfect? And kind of figure out what's even the scale and the standard, and is that realistic? And how's it holding us back? Like how are we allowing ourselves to remain enslaved and in chains to this idea of perfectionism or faux perfectionism, right? So I am excited about this conversation because you and I are on different ends of the spectrum. And I think we have done a stellar job. I think anybody who has spent any time with us would say this as well, because that's what people really are drawn to us as a unit because of what you're able to bring to the table and what I'm able to bring to the table. But maybe what's not seen or like tangible is the way that we can do it like harmoniously, right? Like together and really allow space for each other's gifts to shine, right? So I am not a perfectionist. I'm very much a type B personality. There are certain things that I need organization and structure and like I have a routine and a rhythm and things like that, but like when it comes to a lot of my life, I'm not a type A highly structured person. For me, that feels like freedom, right? Like I want to do the discipline things on the front end and I want to free decide and I want to build out the plan and execute the plan. And I want to do all of that on the front end so that I can have the freedom on the back end and not be like spinning my wheels over here trying to figure it out. So what that looks like for me, and I think I want to hear from you too as a recovering perfectionist, is I am going to be more of like I have a higher risk tolerance. When I learned this term, I really liked it because it felt like true for me. Like I do have a high risk tolerance because for me, I would rather risk my ego, my pride, my fear of failure. Like it's there for everybody that nobody wants to fail, but I would rather fail and I'd rather risk that than risk missing out on whatever else it is that God might have for me or that he's called me to, or missing the people that he's called me to lead because of my fear of failure. So I take that like very personally and I would say spiritually, like I feel as like a spiritual obligation that when I feel led to do something, I want to take action pretty much immediately, even if it's in the brainstorming process, right? And so for me, I'll take the risk because that is, to me, less costly than missing out. I'm a learn along the way kind of girl. Hey, I have this great idea. I had no idea how we're going to execute it, but I see the vision for it. I want to cast the vision for it. I want to get other people excited about it. And like, let's just figure it out along the way. You know what I mean? Like I have like a 10% understanding of how to maybe execute this, but I trust that like we're going to build the right team. And that's kind of where you and I come in on some of this stuff is like, we're going to build the right team of people who can bring their gifts and their strengths to the table and execute this. It also looks like making messes that could be avoided. for my for my personality type of like, where I'm at on that perfection spectrum, it makes messes that like I could have been avoided, that I have to clean up or that other people have to clean up, spinning my wheels, going back and apologizing for you know what I mean? Like, I'm so sorry. I like totally activated that way too fast. Right. So one of my strengths is I'm an activator, like I'm a fire starter. I'm really good at it. But if left to my own devices sometimes, or if I'm not healthy as a leader, I can just activate way too much and then there's no reinforcement to keep it going or is the wrong timing. And again, like people are missing out. So that's something I really have to work to not only myself govern, but make sure I have people in place who will say, hey, you're lighting a lot of fires right now. We don't want it to go wild. Like my satisfaction with good enough is probably higher than most people's. But I will say that I have this desire to constantly grow and get better and learn. But I don't necessarily have to wait until I grow, get better, and learn to start something. And so for me, like even if you and I were like if we were on like one of those chef shows, but for whatever we do, like if they said, Nick, you need to come up with a course that has all of these things. Kristen, you need to come up with a course that has all of these things. I think that for me, I'm going to submit mine way before you do because I'm like, this is good enough. I feel like I've expressed myself enough and I've gotten my point across, even if like the details are messy, but yours is going to look way better. You know what I mean? Like, so I think our level of like where's good enough at, I'm comfortable or have like a high sense of satisfaction. Like this is good enough to move forward. But I do have the desire to refine and improve and keep leaning into strengthening myself along the way instead of doing that on the front end, if that makes sense. So I just wanted to kind of share just a little bit of like the other side of perfectionism, what that looks like, some of the strengths and weaknesses that it can bring. And I'm certain, Nick, that you probably have even more that you see that I don't even see. Like, hey, this is the way this shows up and even just in our interactions. But that was just my own little self-assessment.
So I think some of the strengths of being more on the perfectionist side of things, and again, I'm not saying perfectionism is like a good thing, but there are some strengths with people who are, I think, a little bit more have a tendency to focus on, let's just call it like high level of excellence. So even things like acquiring information, sometimes people will get stuck in that. I need to learn, I need to acquire information, I need to figure this out before I make a move. And there definitely is a point where staying stuck in that will keep you stuck from making progress. But I think there's also a lot of value that comes from that. And we were talking before we got started that I just love learning. Like I love learning new things. I do have a high standard of excellence and I love to expand that. Like I just like to get better. If I look at videos that I did a long time ago, even my early videos looked pretty good because I did do some coursework. I figured out, I learned how to set settings and get the right lens but there's still an aspect of putting in some reps and doing some work before you actually really can put that learning into practice. And I think that's the line that most other recovering perfectionists need to walk very carefully is there is a time and place for learning, for acquiring more knowledge, maybe for gaining clarity. So sometimes the perfectionist thing shows up in I don't know how to do it, so I'm trying to figure out how to do it. There's also on the other side of I don't know what to do. So when you're lacking some clarity and you want it to be perfect, right? Like you've got to have like the perfect scenario, the perfect answer, the perfect strategy before you'll make a move. And I think either of those things can really get in the way of making any sort of progress. So yeah, there's a time for learning. You need to acquire some skills, acquire some knowledge. But then at some point, you've got to actually start getting in the pool before you can learn how to swim. You can only watch so many videos and read books about swimming. You will not learn how to swim until you get your butt in the pool. On the clarity side, like there's a time and place for seeking clarity, for praying, for asking for guidance from other people, reflecting, just all of that. But if you're waiting until you have all of it figured out and perfect clarity on everything, you will never do anything. You will stay stuck there. So there comes a point where you have to just move. You have to just go and do. And even feeling like God can put something on your heart. And I don't want to steal some of your bullet points from this conversation, but you had said before we started filming that delayed obedience is disobedience. And I think any of us who are parents certainly feel this way, right? You're like, eventually your kid does what you asked, but like you're still so frustrated because they didn't just do it the first time. And I think there's a point where God is leading you and like, I want you to do this thing. And we're like, okay, but what comes after that? But I mean, whatever it is, it's probably some kind of fear or something like you want to have all the answers first. You want to have all the clarity. You want to have it all figured out. God doesn't work that way. I think if you look at a lot of Bible stories, a lot of times God's like, go. And even like with Abraham, he was like, go this way. It's like he doesn't even know where he's going.
Yeah. He's like, just go. Abraham's like,
Just
okay. That's my word for
where?
anyway. Go.
And God's like, I'll tell you once you start moving. Like, I don't think he's always that severe. I think Abraham was an edge case. You know, we're not all Father Abraham, but I think a lot of times God shows up that way and like he just wants you to obey. He wants you to trust and then just take that next step. And along the way, he's going to illuminate more of your path. I think I talked about that in the previous episode on being overwhelmed, that sometimes when fear is getting in the way, it's just showing us where we're not trusting God. Just trusting that as you move and as you take steps, that more of your path will be illuminated as you go. And sometimes that involves making mistakes. And I think that's a big thing for perfectionists is like, we don't want to screw up. We don't want to make mistakes. And I think even on that, there's a sliding scale of like, what mistakes can you be okay with making? Because most mistakes are not like catastrophic. A lot of mistakes, you might screw something up and like you can fix it along the way. And I think that's one area you really excel at where I can let that fear of making a mistake stop me from moving forward because I don't want to mess up. And I think having this level of severity, like, okay, so if let's say I make this choice and I get it wrong, how catastrophic is this? And I think most of the time, if we're really honest and we play it out, we can do that like fear setting of like, all right, well, what if that happens? Then what? Okay, and then I can probably do this. Then what? I think if you play that out, it's usually not as catastrophic as you're thinking, but we let that fear sneak in there and just keep us stuck and stop us from moving forward.
That's good. I think, well, I want to highlight something that you said. Well, first, I need you to know that like we've been working together for many years now at this point, and I've seen that growth and I've seen where it has held you back at times, but also like even like y'all, this podcast, I mean, you should see our Google Drive note or whatever where we put our notes. Like usually it's like bullet pointed and it's very clear about what we're gonna say. But we got about like I would say like 60 to 70% done. We didn't rearrange anything. And when you said, "Are you ready to do this?" I was like, "Are you talking to me?" like even just that, where it's like we have an idea of what we're gonna say, but it's not like in this perfect format like we normally have it, which is great. Like, that keeps us moving and their efficiency and all of that. That's not bad. But I've seen that growth in you, and I've seen where you have helped me. So for a lot of people, their prayer needs to be like, or they need to react to that obedience. Like if God is telling you to go, quit asking questions and just go. I, on the other hand, need more of that prayer of pause. Because sometimes I'm like, oh, God, just like drop something in my brain and I'll go try to do it. I mean, y'all that have kids, like they just get really excited about something and they go do it. And it's like, but that was for your so and so's birthday. Like, you're not supposed to do it right now. Like, it's for their birthday, right? Like, timing also matters. And so for me, I had to kind of learn to practice that pause in between, like getting this thing that I feel like God has called me to do and knowing when to say, when to go, right? 'Cause sometimes it is just like, go, trust me, I will tell you on the other side. Like, go to the land, which I will show you. Literally, when you were talking about that, my word for this year is go. And so I'm learning a lot to just be reactive and responsive when I feel like the Lord is text that person, stop, go back and pay for that person's thing. Like, just little things along my day, like send a scary, like, what up? Like, I'm very much practicing that, but also like, for me, the work in this, like, and we talk about the spectrum of perfectionism when it comes to launching and leading and things like that, which is where we want you guys to hear us saying that this is important. Like, I've had to really practice the breaks. Like, you like, what does it look like to get the information and to just allow it to breathe a little bit before I prematurely launch it, right? Because it might be for their birthday. Like, it's not for right now. It's supposed to be for this. So identifying those things within yourself, but also like knowing your strengths, operate with them, and partnering with people who fill those gaps. And I wanted to highlight this because I think this is something that you and I have done really well. Because let's just be honest, like, if we're talking about a spectrum, like, we're on the opposite ends of it. I would say, like, our core values are very aligned, like who we are, what we believe, but our mission is aligned, but I would say our methods are not always the same, and, like, the way we show up to this space can be very different. And so what we have done, and what I want people who are listening to this to hear is, like, you know your strengths and your weaknesses. You operate within them, but also partner with people who fill those gaps. Because this is how we build not only an effective and impactful and meaningful business, ministry, organization, team, but efficient. When you can learn to truly acknowledge and become aware of your strengths and your weaknesses and allow others to fill in those gaps, this is where we become really powerful, right? If you can go fast alone or farther together, right? But fast means you're going to burn out a lot faster. So this is really, and this requires a high level of awareness. It requires a high level of safety within your teams. And as the leader, this is up to you to make those safe spaces, but also a high level of humility. Like, you have to be willing to hear the people around you and all of that. But this is why I think it's so important. If you're like, hey, I know I'm like a level 9 out of 10 perfectionist, get some type B people on your team who feel safe enough to say, hey, I appreciate your efficiency. I appreciate your excellence. But in this case, I feel like time is of the essence. Let me activate it, and let's just figure out the rest and trust that God's going to fill in the gaps that you or I can't do. When you get a team like that, like, you just are able to perform and produce. Like, when I say produce, I mean like the fruits of your calling and of all of the things that you've learned in your labor, so much better. So even if you're applying what we're talking about outside of just your yoga classes or your business, like, and you're just trying, like, how can I apply this to my life? Like, the same is true. Like, there's a good chance that somebody you know needs to fill in some of those gaps where your strengths and weaknesses are. So that's why I wanted to take some time, Nick, to talk kind of about like, where we're at on that spectrum, how that looks, like the positive and the not so positive sometimes, and how we have learned to bring it together within our team and what that looks like.
Yeah, I think just one thing to reiterate that you said, or what you're essentially saying, is that you need to give people around you permission to call you out. So that's one thing that's worked well for us is I would say, I would say that, like, here's what I think, but if you think that I'm being too whatever, like, you can say so. And even people, we're more of a partnership, but even in my video business, where it's more of a hierarchy because this is mine and I have people who are supporting me with what I'm doing, even giving them permission. Here's what I think, but if I'm being a little too nitpicky, or if I'm being a little bit too much of a perfectionist, like, you have permission to say it. We won't hurt my feelings, and it won't damage our relationship if you call me out. You can, like, give them like a card they can hold up or something. I don't know, but it's important to give people permission, especially if you are a little bit more of a type A personality and tend to steamroll people. they won't feel safe to say something. So I think it's really important to ask people to tell me when I'm being this way.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And then us, like as leaders or really just people, like just give people access to speak into your life. Like we've gotten to be such an isolated culture that like we're just like we'll consume information from like mentors and coaches and even your counselor. Like when's the last time like they actually spoke into your specific situation? It doesn't happen very often anymore. Even your counselor like they won't give like their opinion. They'll just ask questions and help you arrive to, you know what I mean? So it's like, but when you specifically ask like, hey, or give them permission for one, what you're doing is building trust within that team. So they don't feel like they have to guess. They don't have to fill in the narrative. They don't have to. And so for one, like you're just building a high level of trust. And this is missing on a lot of teams. If you're not trying to build a team right now, like cool, get somebody, Nick, if you have somebody I know specifically in your life, sure you have multiple people, but the person I'm thinking of specifically for your business who's not a part of your business, like you'll run stuff by him and he'll say, hey, you're holding on to that too tightly, or go ahead and launch it as it is. Like just having someone who can see things that's trusted. Remember, like we've built a high level of trust with these people now. So that even if the delivery of the feedback isn't perfect, like I'm just kind of a hey, you said that kind of it sounded really mean when you said that. I don't think you meant it to be mean, but that's how it sounded. I just say it like it is, but we have that level of relationship. But like, even if the delivery isn't perfect, I trust that my best interest is at heart. Like, because I trust you. I trust the person that I've given access to this part of me. That even if they don't deliver it well, it's like, then I take that. I'll take it to God, or I'll go sit with my journal and say, okay, what is this? Like, I had a reaction to this. I didn't like it. I don't know what's going on. What is it? And when we let God get a hold of it, it's like, okay, now we can do something about it. But I think it's extremely, especially, I mean, really anybody at anywhere, but especially if you do kind of lean more towards that type A, high performance, high perfectionism, like make sure that you are giving people access, safe, trusted people access to speak into that and to call you out or to help sharpen your iron, right? Iron sharpens iron. And it doesn't feel very good. I imagine getting your iron sharpened. It doesn't feel very good. But it also doesn't feel very good feeling stuck in your own life, right? Like, and feeling like I have all this education and knowledge of how to swim, but I've never actually put my body in the water. Like that to me, that feels like a version of hell on earth because I don't want to feel bound like that. I don't want to feel like I can't do something or that I can't even because I know that I can, right?
And at the same time, you want a little bit of prep and instruction and learning, because if you just jump in a pool and you drowned, that's not good either. So
That's why we're talking about inspection here. That's right.
yeah. And so another tendency that I have is that, again, I love learning and knowledge. And let's say I'm trying to figure this thing out, or I want to do this thing. I want to learn everything I can about it because I don't want to make a mistake when I go do it. And sometimes that's good. Like if it's a high risk mistake, like making this mistake can cause a lot of damage, like okay, it's worth it to spend more time to make sure that you do it right. Or the less reversible something is, I think the more time you should spend on it. But in my software engineering days, there's this concept of the MVP, the minimum viable product. And I think this is where a lot of us perfectionists get it wrong, where we have this vision of like, here's what it could be. I want to build this thing and it's going to have this and this and it can be this. And, like that's where I'm a dreamer and like creative. And I love that kind of stuff. I love designing, like, here's what we could do. But most of the time I default too much to that versus, okay, that's great. And we can get there, but you don't have to get there all at once. So this concept of the minimum viable product is what's just the base thing that we need to test this idea to see if it's even viable. And so a lot of people, let's just use courses as an example. Some people will get an idea for a course. Oh, I want to make an online course because they think it's going to be easy. And kind of this like, if you build it, they will come mentality. So they have this idea and then they outline the idea and then they start like making videos and they put all this time and effort and money sometimes into making this course. And then they go try to sell it before they've even tested if anybody wants it. So it's much better to launch something, just what's the minimum amount I can put into this, and even launching before you've built anything. There is that other concept of like pre-selling or like pre-launch, and people can sign up or pay or whatever. And then when you've got people saying like yes to that thing, oh, now I can build it. Or I can build the first piece and get started and then build the rest as we go. Whereas if you just try to design everything, the be all end all, make it perfect and then launch, you might have built the wrong thing or a thing nobody wants. So even let's say we're talking before we started recording about like building a community or some kind of like group coaching kind of thing. And if you think you know what they need and what they want, and if you just go build all of that right up front, you might have been right, you might have been wrong. But if you would have built just what you need to get started, and then as the group evolves, as you get more experience with those people and really things come to light, even your people you're trying to reach and help, they only know the symptoms of their problems as they experience them in their life. They don't know the root cause usually. Sometimes they do. Sometimes it's obvious, but even when it seems obvious, okay, let's say I want to lose weight. I'm heavier than I want to be. I want to lose weight, and like the clear solution is diet and exercise, right? And like that's really what they want. Help me come up with a plan. I need to work out more and I need to eat better. But there's likely also some mindset things at work. And there are other things along the way that as you develop this program will come to light. And then you can make more training and more stuff, to address that. And in the end, you'll build exactly what's needed because you're doing it in real time as the needs arise or as things surface. If you can harness the power of the MVP, you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to have the most perfect thing. Just launch the minimum of what's necessary to start to get some feedback. Because really, it's all about iteration. Everything you create, everything you launch, it's about iteration. Let's say even you did take the time to make what you thought was a perfect thing, and then you launched it, and then maybe saw some success. Chances are really, really high you're still going to discover, oh, I didn't realize I also needed to teach on this. Or like there are things that are going to be missing. There are things that you thought are important that people won't care about at all. So if you can just iterate, launch something, and then build it as you go, it's a much better way to go about really launching or building anything. Hey, friend, if you're finding this helpful and valuable, can you hit that like button? That helps. It lets YouTube know that this is helpful, and it'll show it to more people like you who also need this content. All right, back to the episode.
Yeah, well, I want to share just a kind of a real time, like my experience with this, and that I've done this over the years. Something similar, like if I'm getting some kind of training, like when I got bar certified or when I got pound certified or PIO, like I launched it before I even knew how to teach it because I needed the practice. So I'd let them know on the front end, like I need some guinea pigs. I didn't necessarily use that language, but it's like I need some people to practice with. So you guys get to do this half off because I literally just need to keep the lights on long enough for me to learn to teach you, like, so, and I started with that up front and said, I can't promise I'll get it all right, especially stuff with choreography is really hard for me. But I'm like, but I can promise that you'll get a workout, you will be safe, and you'll feel really good when you leave. Those are the three things I can promise while I'm learning how to choreograph, right? So I put it out there, told them what they were getting into. Here's what you can expect, even if it's not perfect. Like I've dismantled perfection in my first invite, right? So real time, what this looks like is I turned 40 in at the time of this recording, 2 months. And especially for women, I think it's a little different for men, but for women, when you start hitting 40, things just start changing. Like, I mean, your brain makeup, your hormones, all the things start changing. Like what was working 1 year ago, 2 years ago, just it's not the same. And we have to, just like when you become pregnant, you have to operate differently. Your body is behaving differently because you're making space for a new life. So if we take that approach to the second half of our lives, that changes a lot. Like the way I ate, the way I exercise, the way I sleep, all of that changes. And as I myself dig into what this looks like for myself, I have a lot of people asking, like, you're 40, how blah, 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 blah. How are you staying fit? How does your skin look so good? How are you still doing all these things? and I'm just listening and I'm paying attention. People are asking me a lot less about yoga, but it's a lot of my yoga people that I've built community and connection with who are like, how do I keep going deeper with you? So I'm kind of diving into all of this. And I thought, you know what? There are lots of people who want to do one-to-one coaching. I usually only offer to like 2 to 3 people at a time just because I pour myself into it so immensely. But for either they don't need that much coaching or they don't want to pay the price that it costs, I thought, how can I take what I do with my one-to-one clients and put it in a scale where it can be digestible for multiple women? So kind of the same structure, but let's focus on what it looks like to, you know, enter this next season of life together. But there are definitely some things that need to be addressed because what we thought before doesn't work anymore. And even just on a scientific basis, so much is coming out. So I don't even know all the information, but I'm learning and I'm inviting them to learn alongside me and I will coach them through it and I will, do all the things and strategize and all of that. So as I'm putting it out there, I leaned heavier into the fitness side of it. The people who were coming up asking me about this were a lot of people in the yoga and fitness space, right? So a lot of my marketing had like me working out and talking about like this workout plan that I'm following is so easy. I can do it from home. I can do it from here. I talked about my food. Like a lot of people always ask me about what I eat. And so that's kind of what I use. But let me tell you, if I had built this program and I launched it over a month before it actually starts, so today we still haven't started yet. So I would have launched it and I opened it up and I said, hey, you get beta prices. It's going to be literally like a fourth of what my one-to-one clients pay, but I'm going to try to train you like I do my one-to-one clients in a group setting. And so, but whenever I sent out their intake form, which had a very lengthy questionnaire, because I want to get to the nitty gritty. If these women are going to give me 90 days of their time and a chunk of money, I need to know who I'm working with. It also gives me information about how invested they are and what it is they're looking for. And to that point, I had 8 women signed up. I would say 7 of the 8 answered a very specific question, and it had to do with more mindset, internal dialogue, self image, things like that. Very, very specifically the same. That was on my radar as like a thing we'll touch on. But now, as I'm looking at it and as the group is forming, I'm like, oh no, we're going to lean heavy on this and we're going to stay here. And the fitness and the nutrition is going to be the bonus. It's going to be the extra. But if I had launched this program, I would have done that the other way around, not knowing what women wanted or what people wanted in this way. So I launched like at that to your point, Nick, like I went ahead and just launched it, said, here's the big picture. We're gonna fill in the rest together. And then the more I learned about them, the more I'm like, okay, God, like I actually know more about this now than I do about becoming 40 and like what that looks like along the way. We'll learn that. But that's just a real time example that I wanted to share with you guys because I've been doing this work for years now. I mean, like I feel like I'm coming up on a decade at some point, but it's like I still feel like a beginner. Like there are times where I still feel like a beginner where it's like I don't know all the information. And like we're not even talk about the execution part of it. I'm like, how do I get my voice and my face to them in a decently excellent manner? Like that's where I want to get stuck and be overwhelmed. And I'm like, I can do this. I can figure this out. Whatever. So instead of waiting for it to be perfect or instead of just putting out there what I think people want, like Nick said, like those people are probably responding to the symptom of being overweight, or unhealthy, or a certain age or whatever. And it's like, but it has that's just a symptom. Like let's go deeper. And I get to do that because they trust me enough to say, hey, I don't know exactly where we're going either, but I know that you'll lead us somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, so I just wanted to share like that real time example because it feels very vulnerable. Like, and it feels very like, do I even have what it takes? Because I don't even know what it's like to be 40. I'm only 39 in 10 months. Like, I'm not even 40, and I'm trying to teach women how to be fabulous in 40. Like, it's like, so, anyways, it's like the desire to kind of want to lean towards and get hyper focused on something that I can be perfectionist about, like the execution part of it and the system and the video and the thing. I say all of that while my microphone sits on the desk next to me. Like, I don't even have a microphone. We could even get this guy to work. But here's what I know. It's all figure outable. And if I don't know, someone I know knows, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah, something I want to highlight in all of that was you said it multiple times. When you're launching something new, tell them that it's new. So if this fear of perfection or if this perfectionist mentality and fear of making mistakes or fear of failure or whatever, if that's a big part of what you struggle with, tell people that it's new. They're not going to expect it to be perfect. Like you'd said it so well. It disarms the perfectionism for them and for you, and it frees you to just practice and just try and get in the reps, because really that's what it comes down to. Is you need to get reps. You need to do more of the thing, even if it's just like making a big decision. Like the more that you do stuff like that, the more confidence you build in your ability that, yeah, I can make a decision. And even if it was the wrong decision, or even if I miss the mark, I can adjust. I can figure it out along the way. But by telling people that it's a beta or it's a test or I'm getting certified, can you come and work with me as I practice, and you get a special price? Like people love that. And you've done that when you started getting your yoga certification. Like you've done that from the beginning. That was my wife was in one of your first groups of like, hey, I'm getting certified. Like, come here. It was some cheap thing for whatever it was, and great way to get practice.
Like, I don't know what I'm doing, but let's figure it out together. Because what I do, like I said, I commit to showing up with excellence. I'm gonna do my homework. I'm gonna pour myself into this program, and my best will be my 100% right now, even if even if that's not my 100% in another season where I've got it all figured out, right? So like and again, I think when you can lead with vulnerability and say, "Hey, I feel really called to do this thing." I think it will really help fill in the blank. Women who are around the age of 40 thrive essentially. But I'm trying out a new thing. I'm trying to make it accessible to more women. I'm trying to make it whatever. So I need a space to practice this. It's crazy that people will still give you their money. So, but what you're doing is you're leading with vulnerability. And vulnerability is a gift, and it often asks or invites people to take off their own armor, right? And say, like, well, if she's going first, I'll go too. And when you start a group like that, when you lead with vulnerability like that and your commitment to excellence, like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing, but I promise I'll do my best, right? Like, and you're gonna get these things in the process. It allows people to show up really imperfect themselves and say, like, I don't know how to do bar. I really want to learn to work out, but like now's a great time for me to try because she doesn't know what she's doing. Like it opens up opportunity for people to connect on a deeper level with you and with each other because there's just it just feels safe for them. Like, and so there is a way to do that, to be vulnerable and transparent about where you're at, but also like can stay committed to excellence. Like, don't get lazy just because people gave you their money and you don't really know what you're doing. Don't use that as an excuse not to show up to your 100% in this season. So, but it is wild. The people are just like, I'm like, I had like 35 people show up and I'd never taught a yoga class in my entire life. Like, how? Why? But I believe that it has to do with my ability to kind of break that down and say, like, just come as you are. I am. So like, let's just figure this out together, you know? And it also kind of puts a little fire under you to get better. Like now there are women counting on me to show up in this space. I'm going to be more likely to show up because I now have people counting on me to produce something for them. And it just kind of makes you have to level up in a different way. You know what I mean? So launching before you have it built, I think is something that not enough people talk about. Like pre-selling the book before you write it. That's really freaking scary. And there is some value to it. And I think there's some value in that. So, but you do have to put imperfection in the back seat or imperfection in the front seat, I guess. Perfection in the back seat with fear. Like just be chilling, buckle up and just trust. Like it's going to be good. And if it's not, we'll do something else.
Yeah, and I think this applies to anything new that you're trying. So using Kristen's example, don't get stuck on the details of like, well, but I'm not launching a coaching program. So if you're a new yoga teacher, same thing. You can put the feelers out there. Hey guys, I just got certified. and I'm ready to start teaching some classes, and I'm just trying to put in some reps or whatever it is. Just put that out there, and your vulnerability is showing like like you're leading by example because you're going to get new people as well. They're like, I've been wanting to try this, but I'm a little nervous. And now they just know this is going to be an environment where they can try things and it's safe. Or maybe you're going to launch a series and you're nervous to try it. Like, I don't know, Nick and Kristen have talked about doing series, and I don't know, and it applies to that as well. Anything new that you're trying. Maybe you want to start launching retreats. Same thing. Launch, do a beta. Really, what it all comes down to is when you're launching things and trying things, making offerings, you need to get feedback, but you can only get feedback if you put it out there. So the faster you can do that, even if you fail, even if you mess up, even if it doesn't work out, that's honestly part of the entrepreneurial journey. You don't see it a lot. You only see the people that really made it and they're way up here. You didn't see all the failures and all the stuff. And they'll tell you about the failures, the mistakes, things that didn't work out. And it's just like it's par for the course. And the faster you can do that, the faster you'll get to success. So just the faster you can try something, iterate, make changes, get feedback, improve, get better, get reps, all that. Like the faster you can do that, the faster you'll improve and bigger things will grow.
Yeah. One of our kind of mantras around our house is because I really want to instill like a high risk. What was it? I wrote it
Risk
down.
tolerance.
Risk tolerance. Yes. In my case, like at a young age. And so something we say is two things we say is we're Campbells, we do hard things. But the other one is you win or you learn. That's it. Like you win or you learn. And I want to instill that in my kids. But for the teacher who might be sitting here thinking like, I know God has called me to do this thing, whatever the thing is, to teach less or teach more or teach nonprofit or to do retreats, like whatever it is, like you're here. I believe not by accident. I believe that you're here listening to this podcast with something on your heart. Like there's something that God has given you, or you would be listening to like, I don't know, like Crime Junkies or something else that doesn't, matter for yoga. But like for that teacher that's listening to this and is like, I hear what you're saying, but I'm just not really sure what to do next. So what are a couple of things, Nick, that we can kind of leave these teachers who are like, okay, I know that I need to do these things and I need to adopt the mantra of you win or you learn, but I'm just not like, what else can we leave them with as they're kind of processing through their own spectrum of perfectionism? And again, it may show up in some areas and not in others, but specifically around this calling, this business, this ministry that God may have called them to.
So I think the first thing is finding that line of what's good enough and launching, or building your good enough tolerance. And like if you're like me, just saying that sometimes makes me feel a little tense. I'm like, good enough, like, okay, but it's not good enough. No, there comes a point where it's good enough to launch. So, and the more that you do that, the more comfort you'll get. I mean, I'm living proof of that because, like you had said, there are a lot of things. Even planning this episode, even like recording it without your mic working. There's a part of me that's like, I've got to figure this out because I want good audio. But in the end, like if it comes down to never getting this mic to work and not recording it, I'd rather record it and like it's good enough. So let's record.
I love that this episode is actually like pure reflection of let's do it even if it's not perfect. All right. Cause like I'm literally sitting here with my microphones next to me. And in the past, like I mean, and we obviously want to problem solve and make it better, make it the best quality it can, but we're not gonna rob you guys who are listening to this, who may need to hear this, just because maybe my voice doesn't sound as polished as it can and hopefully will in the future. So this is a great example. So when we're talking about building tolerance for good enough, like I just love that idea. To me, it feels like resilience. Like when I hear the word tolerance, it's like, how much can my body tolerate under this weighted bar? Well, what I used to be able to tolerate is a lot different than what I can tolerate now. So we have to constantly be building a tolerance for, and this example is good enough. And What this looks like is just increasing your comfort for letting go of control or the idea of messiness. And so a couple of ideas, like just like silly kind of candid ideas that we can maybe try to practice this with is post a picture or a photo of you doing yoga that's not in a perfectly clean background with perfect lighting or maybe no makeup, like getting online with no makeup. I mean, just practicing. This is good enough because what I have to say is really impactful. And it doesn't matter if I have my lashes on today. That's me. Maybe leave a task 90% done and see what happens. This episode is a product of that. Like I wouldn't even say it was 90% that we were just typing through it and like feeling really good about it. And I was like, let's just see where it goes. What's the best that could happen? Right? That's another phrase in our house that I'll ask the kids, what's the best that could happen? It makes them have to stop and think like, what is the best that could happen out of this? And then maybe delegated some things that you normally would micromanage. Like just again, this is the practicing of releasing control. What does that look like to like, okay, women, house cleaning. I know there is no one on this planet that can do it as good as you. And maybe it's not house cleaning for you, but in your business, what is that house cleaning thing in your business that it's like you need to release control of that so that you are freed up to do what God is calling you to now instead of remaining stuck in this thing that someone else can do at least 80% as good as you can. Right. So delegate something that you would normally micromanage that will free you up to move into something new, something else. So, and then of course, like the mindset around this, like maybe practicing grace versus grind. Would I speak to someone else, like a friend, the way that I speak to myself? Right. Like when we talk about being good enough, I mean, there's good enough. Like, is this document good enough to send? But also, like, am I good enough? Like, that's a whole nother layer of work that needs to be done. But maybe just ask yourself as you're saying, like, grace versus grind. There's a time to grind, you guys. There's a time when you don't go to bed until it's done. But that is not how we live life. Like that's not living. Like that's existing. It's just on the other end of the spectrum from like complete apathy. Right. So would I speak to a friend the way that I'm speaking to myself right now? And then also just because of what we do, like check in with your body, like your body based regulation. So you got your breath work and your yoga to help calm the nervous system when imperfection arises. So these are just some little tools. Like when you feel that like pop up, it's like do a couple rounds of box breathing and get back in reality, right? Checking with your body, checking with that. So those are just a couple little things. Like I'm a practical tip kind of girl. Like I like to know like all the information, yes, like why I'm this way and what the root cause is and how to get to it and what I need to do. But like I really need some practical things. So I wanted to send y'all away with that one. As you are building tolerance for good enough, what's the next thing that we can do to help balance that scale of perfectionism?
Yes, this is on the other side of things where maybe you're feeling a lack of clarity of like what to do or a decision you need to make or direction you need to go. And so I think just bringing someone else into the picture who is objective, who's not emotionally tied to the scenario, who maybe has experience in whatever it is that you're needing help with, or just accountability. Maybe there are some people like my friend that you had mentioned earlier who I know that I can trust him. I can take things to him and he's going to give me some honest feedback and some thoughts. And I know that he has my best interest at heart and he can help keep me accountable. Like, hey, that thing we were talking about, like, did you do it? Like we all need some amount of that in our life because it's really easy to play small or avoid the hard things or just not challenge yourself to stay comfortable if nobody else knows about it and if no one else is affected by it. It's really easy. So bringing other people into the picture can help bring a little bit more motivation and just make it more likely that you're going to move, you're going to make progress, and hopefully get on the path to where it is that you're trying to go.
Yeah, especially if we're starting something new. Something that, like, just an example from my own life is I'm in a transition season. Again, at the time of this recording, I'm sitting in a pretty empty house. Like, there's nothing. Everything has been taken out because they came in and repainted my house. My house is under contract to be sold. We're moving out to a chunk of land, hopefully in the next couple of weeks from the time of this recording. and it's far away from where I currently am. So this is going to be a huge transitional season for me. So I tell you all of that because that's going to change my daily habits, my daily things. So as I'm looking at my personal fitness, which has been a high priority this last year and a half, especially coming out of a really previous season, my health and my fitness specifically, like my performance and all of that has been high. Well, when I go live out on 20 acres of land in a town that has literally 267 people, like that's the number of people that live in this town. There are gyms, there are coaches and trainers. And so I took it upon myself to find a program that I can be coached in, that I can take and do somewhere else. So what I realized in that is like I don't necessarily, and especially in the season, need someone to actually coach me. There was a season for that, but in this season, I feel like I've got a good rhythm. I've got a good my habits is good, but I do need clarity. Like I need to know when I show up on Monday what I'm doing. Like I don't want to just walk in there and guess because for one, I'll get bored. I'll check out. I won't see the results. Like and then so like why am I still showing up? I need clarity. So I got a protocol. I paid for it, got a protocol. And then I also need accountability because here's the deal. It doesn't matter how clear my program is if no one knows I'm doing it or because again, it's new, right? Like anytime I have something new and I'm building a new habit, a new rhythm in my life, I cannot do it alone and neither can you. Like it's just true, right? Like you can for a short amount of time. But if I want to sustain my health, when I want to be the healthiest I've ever been, I need other people. So I've got this coaching program that I can take to the gym with me. I'll find a gym out in the middle of nowhere, or I can do it from home. But I also have 3 other women who are doing it alongside me. We started on the same day. We're going to end on the same day. So knowing that those women will come find me on Thursday if I haven't checked in since Tuesday, it makes me show up differently. And so I say that because if you're if you're in a season where you want to launch something new or you want to try retreats or all the things that we've mentioned, who needs to be in your corner and what plan of action do you need to have? I write workouts for people. Like for my clients, I will write workouts I can do that for myself, but there's a good chance that I'm going to write it based on my comfort level and my current fitness level. I'm not going to challenge myself to do something more because I don't even know I need to do more, right? So for me to write it for someone else, I can see clearly inside their world, they're giving me access where they need to be challenged. I can't always see that for myself. So having someone do it for me and then having a group of people that will keep me accountable is key right now as I'm looking at this transition. So if you find yourself in that season, hear my words. Like these are coming straight from the well right now. This is not polished. This is not like, oh, well, a couple of years ago when I found myself, this is literally like today. I'm on day 2 of this protocol. Day 2. Y'all check in with me in about 8 weeks, okay? And let me know that you heard this. So, anyways, I just as we were talking through this, just what leads me to action is clarity, and then knowing there are other people in the pit with me, right? Even if not physically with me, is helpful. So when you're talking about your friend, so important to have.
Yeah, and if you don't have that, we can be that for you. We have
Yeah.
two-on-one coaching available, and we're also toying with the idea of making some kind of group coaching program. We did like a start on this date, end on this date group coaching program, next steps, and it went really well. So we are working on making that kind of an ongoing thing. So be on the lookout for that and let us know if you're interested in that. We're still kind of putting down our thoughts of what this program and community could look like, but we can be that for you.
Moving from acquiring knowledge to putting it into action is what yeah. Yeah. And I think the last thing I have is making sure we're setting realistic expectations and targets. And again, this likely kind of piggybacks off of having other people in your life that can help keep you on the rails or let you know, like, hey, love your ambition, but let's just be realistic about this. But for myself, my business, like I know one summer's coming. She's been around longer than 4 seconds. You know that in summer I pull back from pretty much everything so that I can be available to my kids, all the things. This summer I am moving my whole life. So like it's a whole other layer of stuff that knowing. So I'm not gonna other than my online coaching program, which is all online, like I don't need to be anywhere except my new home office that I'm gonna have. Like I am not, well, now is not the time to like do more, 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 right? Like I know this is a season where I need to lock in and just stay focused with the plan and the strategy that we've done. But knowing what's realistic, which I can't always see for myself. Like that's the biggest thing is like I'm pretty self-aware and I would say I'm above average when it comes to my energy management and output of like what's realistic. Like if you ask me right now, like, hey, do you want to come to a concert? It's free and it's your favorite band. I would be like, no, I don't have the energy for that right now. And like I'm just okay with like knowing exactly where I'm at. But when it comes to business, sometimes I struggle a little bit more with what's realistic, you know. So I'm not gonna be launching a whole bunch of new stuff in the summer, right? Like, because it's just that's about what's realistic for me, especially in the season. So, just keeping it realistic, keeping it bite size, and again, get people in your space. I would say almost all of these action steps that we're giving you require other people because if we knew how to set realistic expectations and targets, we would have already done it for ourselves. Right? We would be stuck. So that was one of my last thoughts for that.
Yeah, I just have one final thought before we wrap this up that it just comes down to taking messy action. Before you have all the answers, before you know how to do it all, before you have total clarity on everything, you've got to just take action. It's in the doing that a lot of the clarity and confidence is created. Well, friend, I hope you found that helpful. If you did, please hit that like button. If you're watching this on YouTube, that really helps us out. And hey, share this with someone. If you know someone, you probably do know somebody who maybe they're another yoga teacher, fitness professional, even outside of that. Like a lot of this stuff is applicable to anyone who's trying to start something new or make a change, make a choice, whatever. It really helps us out sharing this with other people. All right. Well, I appreciate your time and attention, and we'll catch you on the next one.